Okay. Bulky Barbarians bash bad belays. Bulky Barbarians bash bad belays. Oh, we're recording? Yeah, I'll take it out in post. Hey folks, this is Astus from Astus Guides. Patch 7 is here. We have the Barbarian class now, and as usual, every time Larian releases a new class for Baldur's Gate 3, I review it for my class tier list. Now, if you don't know who I am, it's not a surprise, this is my first YouTube video. I am the creator of this beautiful website right here, Astus CRPG Guides. I post guides, tier lists, and builds for various CRPGs, but particularly Baldur's Gate 3. If that interests you, I hope you'll check it out. For now, we'll review the Barbarian. Everything I say here will be updated in text to my class tier list. Diving right in now. Actually, hold up. Before we dive in, I forgot to mention, if you want to access my website, the link will be in the description. Or you can just Google my name, Astus CRPG Guides. Alright, now diving in, the Barbarian class. Here we are in character creation. I should start by saying that the way I see it, you cannot rank a class or its subclasses without knowing what tactical role they fill. And I recognize 4 basic tactical roles in Baldur's Gate 3. They're ones you're probably familiar with: Controller, Defender, Striker, and Support. So the Controller's job is to debuff enemies or apply status effects to them to hinder them. Defenders draw aggro or control enemy movement by throwing themselves into them. Strikers kill targets. Strikers do damage. That's what strikers do. And supports buff allies or just otherwise help allies fulfill their role. So what is the Barbarian then? Well, many classes in Baldur's Gate 3 have like a primary tactical role and then kind of a secondary one they can fill. But the Barbarian isn't like that. It is laser focused on one role, and that is striking. Now, some people say that the Barbarian is also a tank, that's his secondary role, or defender. But I just think this is a mistake that's founded on confusing durability for tanking. And they're not the same. Because durability is something all of the tactical roles can use. It's a little bit like mobility in that way. It's useful for everybody. Durability doesn't make you a tank. What makes you a tank is controlling enemy movement, drawing aggro, and the Barbarian does not get any tools for doing that. The tools that a Barbarian does get are all about killing an enemy before that enemy kills them, which is the role of a striker. Okay. Now let's go through what Barbarians get at level 1 in character creation. First off, hit points. Yes, Barbarians get hit points. In fact, they get hit points in the 1d12 progression, which is the highest in the game. For saving throws, Strength and Constitution, these are decent saving throws. Not the best, but they're pretty good. A lot of these target crowd control effects, which will push you around. Like, for example, Thunderwave or Entangle. Entangle doesn't push you around, but it holds you. Status effect that inhibit movement, let's say. They also get light, medium armor proficiency, shield proficiency, and then simple and martial weapons. These are all the proficiencies you need. They don't get heavy armor. Fighters do, Barbarians don't. But in early access right now, this is patch 7, there really aren't any useful heavy armors. So even fighters only really use medium armor right now, so Barbarians aren't losing anything. And then they get 2 features. One is this one, Unarmored Defense. What this does is, while you are not wearing armor, your armor class will be set to 10 plus your dexterity modifier, which is normal, and then it also adds your constitution modifier on top of that. Now, frankly, you can basically ignore this. Just see it as a ribbon ability, actually, because it's kind of cool if you want to play like that loincloth barbarian. But if you maximize this at level 4, I think you'll have like a 16 to 17 AC. And that's what you can get with very little investment and just wearing medium armor anyways. So, yeah, it's not getting you any bonuses, really. Except, I suppose, there are some barbarian unique garbs, let's call them, that aren't technically armor, so the higher unarmored bonus, the better you'll be able to use those. But I still just prefer to wear the Githyanki half plate. It's the best way to go. And then the second feature they get at level 1, and this is the real MVP, is, of course, Rage. Rage is awesome. And it basically does 3 things. First, while you are raging, you deal 2 extra damage on melee attacks, improvised weapon attacks, and thrown objects. 2 extra damage is 2 extra damage. It's not much to say here. You're a striker. Extra damage is great. Also, while you're raging, you have resistance to physical damage. That is piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing. This is great. This is incredible. These are the most common damage types, and you're just getting that when you rage, which you'll be raging all the time. Resistance halves the damage, so you can see it as effectively doubling your hit points against these damage types, which are the most common, and your hit points are already really high because you're on a D12 hit point progression, so beautiful. And then the third and final thing in Rage, and this one's easy to overlook. While you're raging, you have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. Now, if you're coming from tabletop, you might not know how good this is. Larian's made some choices in their encounter design, which make shoving and pushing a really important strategy. And shoving is made on a strength check, and it's defended on either a strength check or a dexterity check with acrobatics. But what that means is, if you have advantage on strength checks, you have advantage both to resist being shoved and to shove your enemies. And that's just awesome. You will use this. In my runs, I've been getting very, very consistent shoves, which is great in BG3. And that brings us to level 2. At level 2, the Barbarian gets 2 more features. These are actually the last 2 features that the Barbarian gets from its base class. So at the end of this segment, I will give the Barbarian base class a tier ranking, and then we'll go on to rank the subclasses. So, level 2. The first feature we're going to get is Danger Sense. With Danger Sense, you have advantage on dexterity saving throws against traps, spells, and surfaces, which is basically all the things that you want a dexterity saving throw for. What can I say about this? Dexterity saving throws are actually pretty common. They're part of what I call the big 3, which are Constitution, Dexterity, and Wisdom. Those are the most important saving throws. Now, consider for a moment that we already have proficiency in Constitution saving throws. Now we have advantage on Dexterity saving throws. Advantage is actually better than proficiency at low levels. So we're getting really great saving throw coverage. 2 of the big 3. We don't have anything for Wisdom, which really sucks, because Wisdom is probably the most important saving throw. But still, 2 of the big 3 saving throws are great, and then it's 3 saving throws total that we're getting significant advantages for. You don't see that kind of saving throw coverages on other classes. Fantastic. Can't say enough good things about it. Moving on to the last feature the Barbarian gets in early access for its base class. This is Reckless Attack. It's a very straightforward feature. Basically, you get to choose to make your attacks in a round with advantage. But the drawback is that everyone attacking you between you making your attacks and your next turn, they also get advantage. So you're trading accuracy for a little bit less durability. Is this a good trade? Absolutely. Spam this. Spam it. If you're wondering why, think about it like this. Well, we could put it really succinctly, actually. They can't attack you if they're dead, right? Another way to look at it, when your hit points get down to 0, you just pay a healing word tax and you're back in the fight. But when their hit points get to 0, they're deleted from the game. So there's a natural asymmetry here. So if you're trading the same weakness, it's going to favor you because tankiness is less important for the player characters. And that's it. That's the Barbarian base class. So now, how do I rank it? I rank the Barbarian base class as an A tier, which is really good. It's the best by far, I'd say the best base class for a martial character and the best base class for a striker, which is saying a lot. The only other striker that I rank A tier is the fighter base class, but I want to be clear, the Barbarian base class is better. However, it's really hard in my mind to get into the S tier if you don't have spells. Spells are just so potent in Baldur's Gate and in 5th edition that the S tier for base classes is kind of dominated by spellcasters. But the Barbarian's about as good as you're getting for martials. And it's not even over yet. We still have to cover the subclasses, so let's go to that now. Now, at level 3, Barbarians get to pick their subclass. And they can pick between 2 options, kind of. The 2 options are Berserker and Wildheart, but Wildheart is kind of like 5 subclasses packed into one. And we're going to go through each of these and give them their own ranking. So that'll take a little longer. But for now, though, I want to start by looking at the Berserker. So the Berserker subclass adds 1 feature to the Barbarian base class, and that is Frenzy, which is an enhanced rage. Now, in Larian's interpretation of Frenzy, there's really only one difference, and that is that while you are in Frenzy, besides all of the other bonuses of Rage, you get to make an extra weapon attack, throw, or improvised weapon attack as a bonus action. So that's these down here. It's called Frenzied Strike. It's the same as a standard attack action, a single standard attack action, only you can make it as a bonus action. And yeah, that's the whole thing. So how good is Frenzied Strike? It is so good. I can't say enough good things about it. I mean, think of it like this. Fighters get Action Surge, which is awesome. I mean, you make an attack, you Action Surge, then you can make another. You're attacking twice in a round. Okay, so now imagine you could do that every round for 10 rounds. And then you could do that 3 times per long rest. And that's what the Berserker is getting here. Like, what it does to your damage per round is just awesome. And you can actually see it because I've graphed it on my class tier list article on my website. So head on over there and take a look. I compare a standard Berserker build to other major striker classes. So, for example, the Hunter, the Thief, the Battle Master. And the Berserker is doing the best damage per round of all of them. And it's it is better by far. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Battle Master is no longer the king of striking. It's the Berserker now. This subclass is S tier. Now, our second option for subclass, the Wildheart, is also good. Or it can be, depending on which of the options you pick. So, let's discuss it. The Wildheart is Larian's version of what's called the Totem Warrior in the Player's Handbook for 5th edition. Basically, with this subclass, you select certain totems, and these totems are going to empower your standard Barbarian rage. Right? All the totems are animal totems, and they give you animal-themed powers. How Larian has done it is, besides the normal bonuses that you would get from these in the PHB, which are what I would describe as passive bonuses to your rage, you will also get an active power that you can use during your rage. And you get one of each for each of these 5 options. We're going to go through each option one by one, starting with the Bearheart. Okay, so the Bearheart, while they are raging, they are resistant to all damage types except psychic. Now, this is an improvement from the standard Barbarian Rage, where you're resistant only to physical damage. This increases it to all damage except psychic. That's their passive feature. Their active ability that they can use while they're raging is called Unrelenting Ferocity. With this, at the cost of an action, you can heal yourself for 1d8 plus your Constitution modifier in hit points. I know I'm going to get some hate for this, but I really don't think the Bearheart is that good. It sounds good. You know, getting resistance to every damage type except psychic, how can't that be good? But remember that the Barbarian already gets resistance to physical damage, which is the most common damage type. So the real question is, how much are the other resistances really giving us? And I just don't think that they mitigate that much damage over a run. I mean, the only way we can really evaluate this is to make some estimates. So I'll make some estimates. You don't have to agree with them. Hopefully you can see the points I'm making. So let's estimate that physical damage accounts for 90% of the damage that we take on a run as a Barbarian. If it's mitigating 90%, then all that Bearheart is giving us is resistance to the remaining 10%-ish. And then if you add to this that of that remaining 10%, I would say 90% of that is evenly split between fire, poison, and force. And you can get resistance to at least one of these just with your racial selection, right? Poison you can get from Strongheart Halflings or any of the Dwarves. Fire you can get from any of the Tieflings. So with a good racial selection and the base Barbarian class, by my estimates, you can get resistance to 93% of the damage you'll be taking. Probably less, but still most of the damage you'll be taking, so you don't need Bearheart. Factor into this that you can also mitigate damage through simple target selection. Do they have a wizard who's going to be casting magic missiles at you? Kill that wizard first. You won't have to worry about the magic missiles. And the Bearheart class doesn't offer you anything extra to kill the wizard. Some of these other subclasses do that. They give you increased mobility or increased damage, and ironically, I think that will do more for mitigating damage than the Bearheart passive. And then Unrelenting Ferocity, their active ability, just doesn't save the day. I think this ability is such a bust. It's a heal. And it takes your action to use, which you need your action to be attacking, because you need to attack to keep rage up. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before, but rage will end if you don't either make an attack, even if you miss it, you just have to make an attack, or if you take damage. If you don't do that in a round, your rage will end. So by using this heal, you risk dropping your rage, which would be awful. And then it's not even that good of a heal. It's just, you're a barbarian. You should be using your action to hit things. Save the healing for the healers. I give the Bear Heart a B tier. It's not that it's awful, it's just that it's not that good. It's not as good as people say. Next up we have Elk Heart. I like Elk Heart quite a bit. Its passive feature, of course, while you are raging, enemies that attack you have disadvantage on their opportunity attacks. Also, you can dash as a bonus action. Its active feature is called Diving Strike. This is a normal attack, but you make it by jumping off somewhere high. So you can only use this ability when you're at least 1.5 meters above your target. And you jump off whatever height you are on and attack them. The attack resolves like normal, except if it hits, the target is knocked prone and there's no saving throw to resist. Also, you don't take any fall damage from this attack. What all of these bonuses mean, tactically speaking, is a lot of mobility. I mean, the Elk Heart is the most mobile barbarian subclass, in my opinion. Being able to dash as a bonus action, it doubles your movement on the turns where you use it, right? And it's hard to see how useful this can be. But you can actually trade this to cancel enemy actions, the same way as a spell like Sleep or Command would. Basically, the trick is you draw aggro from a melee enemy, and then you pull them away, far enough away from a fight, where you can run back into the fight in one turn of movement, but it takes them two. And then you break aggro with them, return to the fight, you'll return and be able to use your action. But for them to dash back, they have to spend their action to dash, and so, effectively, you cancel their action. And you can do this at will, as long as you have a melee target aggroing you. There's also a lot of really interesting item synergy that the Elk Heart gets because they're able to dash on a bonus action. I won't go into all the details here, but I did make a dedicated guide around this class and the specific items on my website. So again, check out my website. The article is called Fallen Light. I always give all my builds a little poetic name like that. So that's enough about dashing. Let's talk about Diving Strike. Unlike many of the active features that Larian added, Diving Strike can actually be useful, but it's pretty bugged right now. It only works like half of the time for me, which is sad. It's difficult to use the prone effect, so just don't expect to use it, and if you do get something out of it, then nice, bonus. Mostly the way I look at Diving Strike is it's just an added amount of mobility, an extra 9 meters and a free feather fall on the end of your attack. Yeah, the Elk Heart is pretty good. I will give it an A tier ranking. That brings us to the Elk Heart. The Elk Heart, as its passive feature while raging, it gains an increased 4.5 meters of movement. I believe that's 15 feet if you use the feet measurement instead. It's 3 units of movement. Its active feature is called Primal Stampede. So this is a charge attack, and you hit the person that you are charging, of course, a small area around that person, and everyone in between. That's who's targeted in the attack. Everyone who's targeted must make a saving throw. I'm not sure what kind of saving throw it is. I'm also not sure what the DC is for the saving throw. In all of my runs, the DC has been 12 regardless of my build, so I'm pretty sure it's bugged right now. I'm sure Larian will fix that soon. However, they must make a saving throw. If they fail the saving throw, they take 1d4 damage plus the usual modifiers. So if you have, all of your strength modifiers, etc., they take that damage, and they are knocked prone. That's Primal Stampede. My evaluation of the Elk Heart is going to be pretty short because I'm really not impressed with this subclass. The bonus movement is cool, but the Eagle Heart already gives you bonus movement and a lot more of it. Sure, it takes a bonus action to use, but it's worth the bonus action to use it. Primal Stampede is probably a little better than Diving Strike because it hits multiple targets, but it's a save attack, and save attacks are always less accurate than a standard attack. So, if it's better, it's not better by much. In the end, there just isn't anything that this subclass offers that the Eagle Heart doesn't already give you, so I just don't see why I would pick it over the Eagle Heart. I will rank it a C tier for now because technically Primal Stampede is better, but I'm recommending that Larian find a way to buff this particular totem. Start recording. 2 more to go. We're on to the Tiger Heart now. Tiger Heart has the coolest piercings, in my opinion. The Tiger Heart's passive feature is that they have 4.5 meters of increased jump distance while they're raging. It's a lot like the Elk Heart, but there's some interesting things you can do with this. Jump is tripled with the jump spell. And of course, jump distance is a little more valuable than standard movement. Even though it takes a bonus action to utilize it, you can move distances by jumping that you couldn't otherwise move just by moving normally. For example, you can jump from rooftop to rooftop, you can jump up a cliff, things like that. Their active feature is called Tiger's Bloodlust, and this is really what defines their niche, I feel like. I think Tiger's Bloodlust is probably the best active that Larian added. With this ability as an action, you can make a cleaving attack which hits up to 3 enemies. It's the same, as far as I can tell, as the weapon action cleave. Each enemy hit, you make an attack roll, and if that hits, they take half of your damage and they begin to bleed. They get the bleeding condition for 2 turns. Now it says they take half of your damage, but this isn't exactly right. In my tests, from what I can tell, it has your weapon damage, and it has any dice damage that are added. So for example, the 1d4 that you add when you dip your weapon, that's halved. And finally, it halves the bonuses from your ability modifier. So in this case, strength modifier, it'll half that. What it does not have is any other flat bonuses. So for example, the flat +2 that you get from your rage is not halved. That will apply to each enemy hit in the cleave. Also, if you take Great Weapon Master, it will not have the +10 damage from Great Weapon Master. So it's not exactly half your damage, especially if you go the Great Weapon Master route, and that's why I recommend taking that feat on all of your Tiger Heart Barbarians. The Tiger Heart is really fun. I like that it has its own niche, which is AoE attacking with its cleave. That's pretty cool. The extra jump distance is, of course, just another mobility option, but you can play around with this one with the jump spell. It's B tier for Tiger Heart. Finally, let's move on to the last one, Wildheart. Like all of the other Wildhearts, Wildhearts will get an active and a passive feature tied to their rage. Their passive feature affects their allies. So when an ally attacks an enemy that is within 2 meters of you while you're raging, that ally will get advantage on their attack rolls. Then their active feature that Larian added is called Inciting Howl. It costs an action to use, and it increases your movement and the movement of all allies within 9 meters of you by 3 meters. So you're gaining 3 meters of movement. Yes, that's right. Another movement boost on one of the Wildhearts. If you're counting, that's 4 out of the 5 Wildheart options, giving you a boost to your mobility. The Wildheart's niche is friendship and teamwork, and I absolutely love it. Giving advantage to ally attacks is a really big deal. I mean, think about earlier when I was gushing about reckless attack. That was giving advantage on your attack at the cost of advantage on enemy attacks against you. Now, think of the Wildheart as giving reckless attack to your entire team, but without any of the drawbacks. Just fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. It's phenomenal. Inciting Howl, on the other hand, is pretty meh. It costs an action, and it's not an attack, and it's the same thing as I was talking about with the Bear Heart. Anytime you use it, you risk losing your rage. So you can just forget about it, and that's fine because the passive feature for Wildhearts is so good, you don't need to use it, ever. I rank the Wildheart an A tier, but I want to say that I think it's the best of all of the Wildheart options. Even though I also rank the Eagleheart an A tier, I think the Wildheart is better. It's just neither of them are good enough to make it to S tier, in my opinion. And that's it. That's the last of the subclasses, which means that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you like this content, subscribe. I'm going to be releasing a class review just like this one every week until we've covered all of the classes available in early access. My plan is to port over all of the content I have written on my website into video format, as well as make some videos on topics that don't really work as well as an article, but really need a video. All right, I'm rambling now. Thanks again, guys. I'll catch you later.